Hello everyone. So today we will be drawing this object. This is actually angle projection because we can see here it's the plan on top and then we have the front view here. So we're going to do this object in isometric. So the first thing we're going to have to look at is one, the orientation, the shapes, and how the layout is going to be. Now, this is crucial, and I always recommend that you take a couple minutes, two, three, as soon as you get more experience and you get a lot more practicing, you could actually minimize that time just by looking and analyzing your drawing. But spend some time analyzing it. So we're gonna start off by looking exactly at what are the shapes, how it's laid out in the plan and the front, and we're gonna understand how we should orient it. So the first thing I'm gonna highlight here is we're gonna see the hidden lines for the circle behind or the larger circle right at this point here. So I know that the circle is not on top of this square, it's actually behind, because that means that if there's the hidden lines, it means that the square is blocking the view of the circle at this point. So that's something that I want to note. The next thing I'll note is we have a circle here which is in hidden line, and then we have another circle which is solid. So that tells me that this object, or at this point, there is going to be a circle and it's going to be hollow. Next, once we watch the center line, sorry, the hidden line going around, we can kind of have a grasp of, okay, there's going to be some form of cylinder or cylindrical shape in our next view. And last but not least, we have the outer circle, and we mentioned that already, which would have been overlapping with, sorry, beneath the square of 44. So now as we look at this, and if it is that you're drawing it, you fully well know that you can pull down all your projection lines to just simply construct a grid from which you can simply pull your dimensions while drawing the front view. So what we'll look at right now is the vertical distances, and that's basically all the dimensions we need, simply because we have a lot of the other dimensions on top. So the vertical distances are what matter. I'm going to look at it. So we have 6 is the total height of the object. That is good to know. Then we have 10 is the thickness of the square, and we know it's the square because if we look at the lines, our projection lines, it meets directly at this point right here, which corresponds to our circle. And we know that the circle is on top, sorry, the square is on top of the circle simply because not only the projection lines but the hidden lines on it. So you know that this is going to be the square. And this is where we see the cylinder coming out, where this projection line runs directly in line with this or these two main object outlines. And from this view, of course, you can't tell whether or not it's a cylinder or if it's a square or what exactly the shape is, but we know from the plan that at this point it corresponds with the hidden lines and it's actually a circle. So that's something that we're going to note as well. Then we have it coming down from this end straight to the bottom plane, and then last but not least we have the outer circle and the largest circle, which will be this part here. And oh, one more thing, the hidden line, remember we saw, at least in our analysis earlier on, we had this solid line here, and if we watch our projection lines, we can clearly see that it has turned into hidden lines, showing that this object is hollow. So now that we've spent some time analyzing it, let's jump into the actual drawing. So we're gonna start off by, and this is how I like to do my isometrics. Of course, you can find your own, your little way of drawing it. So I'm gonna start off by, I'm just gonna pull it across. But one of the things that I love to do is, I want to start right here. Nice. one of the things I like to do is I like to do the at least start off with a basic, you know, 30 150-degree angle just to get my brain into that feel of, sorry, tab 150, tab 150, so that I can snap it to that angle and enter. Nice. Tab 150, tab. Nice. This is just to get, that feel of the isometric, and the lowest point is going to be here. I love to just visualize it. So now we're going to go on to what should we start next, and of course we're going to start at the lower, and I would always recommend this, start at the lowest part of the object and just get the general sense of what it is that you are building. So the first thing we have, if we're going to start from the bottom, which is the lowest part of the isometric, will be this cylinder or the biggest circle. So we know, especially when we have circles to represent in isometric, we have to use the iso circle. So what we're going to do is we're going to reference the diameter of the circle, because we know we have to construct the iso square that the isometric circle is going to be constructed within, and the diameter of the circle is what corresponds to one side of that square. So we know that the diameter for this circle here is actually 57. So we're gonna go L, enter. We're gonna draw a line at 57, 57, enter. Then we're gonna go back 30 degrees, 57, enter. Then we're gonna go down that 30 degrees, intersect at the 57, and if we measure it back, we're gonna get that. Awesome. So this is our base, and what you, if at this point you could just tr and enter, you can just trim off those nice little flares that we drew initially, and here we have it. We have our starting angles, we have our base, and we have the square. So now we're gonna do the construction for that circular base. Yeah, so we're gonna do a quick quadrant. We're going to divide it up into four, divide that square up into four like this. Awesome. Then we're going to go L, enter. We're going to also do the V across. Then we're also going to do the other one. Awesome. And then once we have all the necessary points for our isometrics, to construct the isometric circle, we're actually just going to shift it across the center start end. We're going to start here, click, and then we're going to drag. So right now what we are doing is we are demonstrating our capabilities to actually draw an isometric circle. And now for the longer arcs, or for the larger arcs, you have to go from corner. Yeah, so the wider the arc is, the deeper you have to go. So then since I went from here, I know I have to do it for here, so I'm going to start from here, 2 and 3. Awesome. Now once we do this and we complete this, what we can do is simply just grab this object. We're gonna say, hey, I know that this is the base. I'm gonna turn this into my main object outline, and I'm gonna clean it up after, so don't worry about it too much. Alright, I'm gonna say copy. No, not copy. Oops. I'm gonna select the lines, and then I'm gonna turn it to a main object outline. Awesome. Had a big movement there. Nice. And the next thing, the step up from, so this is what we would have drawn. We would have drawn a circle at the base. A step up from there in order to get from the, I hope you could see, to get from the base to here would be creating that 13 height, right? 30 millimeter height. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna continue, and this will be for the entirety of the drawing. We're gonna start using the center because we have a lot of circles here. So we're gonna measure the height of our circle from using the center point here. So just for reference, I'm gonna mark the point right here, and we're gonna know that's our center point. Now I'm gonna go L, enter. I'm gonna go from the center, I'm gonna go up 13, and then once I reach here, I'm gonna put another point right there. So I know that this isocircle lays at the bottom point, and now since it's tilting up and it's the exact same shape because we're making a cylinder, sorry, because we're making a cylinder, what I have to do at this point is I just have to copy the isocircle as is, get those nice quadrant lines so that we know what we're doing. We're gonna copy it and we're gonna drag it from the center the to that 13 height. Yes, awesome, awesome. So once we reach this point, we can clearly see that okay, we're forming that cylindrical base, and now we're just gonna finish it off by taking the middle of these points because that would be the point of tangency. We're gonna take the again the middle of these arcs because that would be the point of I'm saying it because if it is that you did not know, right, in order for us to use or draw this line here, it has to be tangent to both the top and the bottom one for the view or the construction to be correct. However, we know that these arcs here are symmetrical, so that means that the point of tangency is exactly at the midpoint. So that's why that's just a little side thing to know, but this only applies in this case, right, where we have cylinders going up vertically. Awesome. So now we have this. Now we know that there's some cleaning up that needs to be done. So we're going to go to here and enter. We're going to do some trimming. We're going to trim away some of the basic stuff needed. And we're going to go all the way across to there. Now I know you're wondering, hey, sir, don't we have to trim here at some point? Yes, we'll trim it when we get there. So awesome. Now once we have this, that will be this base here and at least the bottom part of it. So we would have constructed this cylinder. Now the next thing we want to go on to is actually constructing this mid area here. And since we want to construct this mid area here, the place we have to start from, just like we did with this lower section here, this first section here, sorry, is we want to start from this base. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw the base, which is a circle, right, of a circle of diameter 38, an isocircle of diameter 38, to just simply start here and go up. So what we can do is at this point we don't want to confuse ourselves with too much of the line, and because we're using AutoCAD, we are going, if you're doing paper, of course you're going to have to most likely draw it on top. However, since we're using AutoCAD, we'll use that to our advantage and we will be constructing it on the outside. So we're going to start at making, let's just get that diameter again, it's 38. We're going to start at, remember, 30 degrees. You could let it snap to 30 degrees and you're going to go 38, enter. You're going to let it snap 38, enter. You're going to let it snap 38, enter, and then one more at a 30-degree. Awesome. Now once we have this, you know the process. You want to divide it into quadrants. Now yes, this is the approximate method, but it's one of the fastest approximate methods for drawing an isocircle in my opinion. So you're going to have 1 2 up, then you're going to have L enter, then you're going to have 1 2 up. Awesome. Once we have this, you can just do your center start N from here 1 2 3. Awesome. Then you come here 1 2 3. Then you're gonna just simply draw from here 1 2 3. Last but not least, center start and 1 2 3. Now at this point, I know you're wondering, you're like, okay, sir, now that we've drawn it, what do we have to do? Well, simply convert this circle to your main object outline because it's very important. And what you're gonna do is copy, and we're gonna take this and we're gonna just rest that at that midpoint of that base. Now the reason why I'm putting it here is I'm putting it here simply because this cylinder is at this point at the base is aligned with the top of this cylinder here. So it's the wider circle, and then we have the smaller circle. So now, and what you would have noticed as well is I would have left out the top quadrant. That is mainly because I don't want to go through the hassle of having to trim that after, because we know it's going to be hidden from this view. If you aren't sure, you take the measurement from there as well, you put it here and you just trim it whenever it is you're cleaning up your isometric. So now that we have this, it's not that we don't have stuff to clean up, we do. So we're going to stop here for a bit, because we don't exactly know where we have to line it up. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move up. So we know that we drew the base. Now same thing we did with this, we have to do the top. And since we know we have to do the top, alright, we know that we must get the height of this. Now one of the things you could do is you could either say 10 plus 13, which will give you 23, and you minus the 23 from the 60, and you would get the dimension for that. Or you could just simply pull your dimension and you would see that it's 37. Whichever method you choose, if you choose to calculate it, it's entirely up to you. And just be able to, I can't stress it enough, just be able to trust your construction. So we know that the height of this is going to be 37. Now we're gonna grab it from here, we're gonna pull that 37 up, 37, and then we're gonna mark it with a point, and then we're gonna have it right there. Nice. So we have the 13 here, and then we have the 37 coming up there. So at this point, because our isometric is tilted, right, and we know it's tilted in this direction, just as all isometrics are, what I would recommend to avoid unnecessary drawing would be to draw the outer area, which is on top of this top part here first. And we know that this top part corresponds to a square, which is at 44. So now all we have to do is draw that 44 in order to see where or what is going to get cut off from the cylinder. If you don't understand, just watch through the video up until the point, and you would, and hopefully at the end of it you would understand from seeing the demonstration. So now what we have to do is we have to construct this square here. Yes, we have to construct this square on top of here of 10 thickness. We're going to start with just a square, and that is a side of that is 4 millimeters. So we're going to start, we're going to go from here. We're just simply going to take a point and tip. Since we're going from the midpoint, we're just going to go 22 across, and we're going to make sure that that is 30. Nice. And then we're going to do 22, and now this is us starting this side. So because we're starting from the middle of the circle, it's 22 from the middle to the end at 30 degrees, and then we're gonna come at the 150. A tip that I always tell some of the students to remember, the angle that they want to draw at is 150 degrees. Let me just check this angle. Nice. 100. If you're doing a line going towards the left, it's 150 degrees. If you're doing a line going towards the right in isometric, then it's 30 degrees. So then we're going to do the 44 now. And then once you do the complete the 44, we're going to make that, since we're drawing to the right, we're going to hit that 150 sweet spot for the snap, and then we're going to go 44 as well. Then we're going to come back, we're going to hit that 30-degree sweet spot for the snap, and 44, enter. And then last but not least, we're going to bring it back, and it's going to finish it up at 22. So we know that 22 and 22 is equal to 44, and half of this, because if I draw the line here, alright, so we know that it's half of the width. It's 44 here, 44 here. So that's just a tip to understand it, and this is the base of that square. So now what we can simply just do is, let's go ahead with this. We're going to go the 10 up. So using our center point again, we're just going to go 10 up, 1 0, enter, and we're going to put our point. The points aren't necessary, but I like to put it so that not only I, but you all know exactly where I'm at with regards to the drawing. COPY, since we're moving along the mid, I'm going to copy it from the mid and put it at the next point. And then I'm just going to draw my connecting lines similar to what I would have done with my cylinders. Awesome. Now, once we get to this point, you can kind of see the shape of the beast, but that still leaves this bottom point here left. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab these lines and make them solid so we could kind of understand, or we get more of a clear visual of what is going to be solid on top of here. And it's just going to be these, and I'm going to switch these to main object outline. Awesome. Enter. Escape. Nice. So now we have this. I can see, oh, well, this is the top. So now, since I want to clean it up, I'll TR, enter, enter. I'll trim this. I'll trim this because that isn't supposed to be there. And then we can kind of see our object opening up. And now I know that, hey, so I remember earlier on you said that the point of tangency for these will be the midpoint. So I want to zoom in. I want to get the midpoint. And then I want to project the midpoint up. Yes, same thing again. So from the midpoint, nice, the midpoint for those particular arcs. Wait, let me just control Z. Yeah, we're gonna take it from here. Sorry, I just had to make sure that I was getting those midpoints. You have to be very careful because sometimes the snap changes last second and you miss those points. So I always like to go over and make sure just for you all. So at this point here, I know that okay, everything inside of here is going to be behind or blocked by the main cylinder for the piece. So now I'm gonna clean up TR enter enter. I'm gonna do some little clean up here. 1 2, nice. I'm gonna move across 1 2 as well, and now 1 2. Awesome. I'm gonna grab my two vertical lines. I'm gonna change them to outline and enter. Escape. Great. Now that we have this, we could basically see how our object is looking. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do that last circle, just to put the finishing touches on it. And that last circle is going to be at the tippy top and it's gonna go down inside. So let's get to drawing that iso circle. We're gonna go L enter again. We know that the inner circle has a diameter of 25, so we know that for our iso square, that means one side is going to be 25. We're going to utilize that snap, 25. We're going to utilize the snap again, 25, and then one more 25. Oops, that is not 25, but at least we got the angle, so we know we can just cut it. Nice. I'll enter. We're going to turn it into quadrants or divide it up into four, depending on how you want to phrase it. We're gonna do the span, the V across the wider areas for our arcs. Awesome. And now once we complete the setup for the construction, we could switch to center start N and we could start to construct that iso circle. I always start, I guess you all will know that as well. Majority of the times I just start with the smaller corners and then I do the larger corners for last. I think I just picked it up from habits, I guess. Awesome. Nice. Now once we reach this part, we're gonna highlight 1 2 3, and since this is going to go on top, we're just gonna throw that any outline as well. Enter enter. And just so the examiner, whoever is looking at this, knows that this is what we want, I'm also going to change this to outline as well. Nice. So I'm going to leave these at the side so that whoever is looking at our work can understand that, hey, we knew it was going to be a little bit jumbled. We didn't really want to use the colors or change around colors, so we just constructed and copied it in. So now we're just going to take the actual isocircle. I like to take the quadrants because it's good to see the quadrants. And then we're gonna copy, grab it at the center, and then we're gonna rest it right there. Awesome. And I'm gonna escape. Now, now that you see this, this is the completed drawing. And if it is I wanted to check, like let's just say I wanted to check, okay, do my heights line up? I'm gonna grab it from here and put it all the way up to here, and you all could see that hey, the height is 60. Nice. And then let me see if I could do this. DIMED dimension edit. We're gonna do oblique. We're gonna do 150. Enter. Nice. So just pulled one of my dimensions across here just so you could see. So yes, the height of the object from the bottom to the top here in isometric is actually 60, which corresponds to our drawing. Awesome. That is good. Next, once we reach this, and last but not least, one of the things I want to show you is what if we were required to draw the hidden lines. If we were required, sorry, to draw the hidden lines of this. And mainly the hidden line I want to show you all will be the center of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this right here, because we know that that center goes directly to the bottom. I'm going to also copy the center lines. I'm going to, no, I'm not going to turn it yet. I'm going to copy, enter. I'm going to grab it at the middle. And now, because we know that this goes straight through here and it rests at the bottom, I'm just going to rest it where my center line is. Now that I've done that, I'm going to switch it across because it's not a part of our visible, our main object outline. It will actually be hidden line. So I'm going to put that in hidden line. And guess what? Now, same thing that we did with this, I'm actually just going to do a line coming from, I would say, midpoint. Right, so from midpoint straight up, and you would see it intersects, because again, tangent, it will go all the way up to the top. Let's just grab that midpoint there. Awesome, awesome. It will go all the way to the top right there, and then we're going to highlight these two, and guess what? Hidden details. Enter. So now we can see that this right here is actually a hole passing through our object as it meets the bottom. Awesome and nice. And if it is that you wanted to go all out with regards to your hidden lines, this part here would also be a hidden line, so we could always just switch this to hidden line, hidden detail, enter. And last but not least, you would also have to move this particular circle here for the hidden line as well. So what would that look like? Oh, let's see. So we're gonna grab this one as well. I'm just getting carried away just doing up the hidden lines, and I know it's getting confusing at this point, but we could always turn off the layer. So I'm gonna grab here and this COPY, and now I'm actually just gonna grab this part of the object and I'm gonna put it in the center here. Nice. And last but not least, wait a minute, hold up, convert this to hidden detail, enter. And once we have that in a hidden detail, now what we could do is, because we know exactly how we want it, we're going to continue this line up straight to the midpoint. Now you see, it's not going to intersect the main line, it's going to intersect the circle, so we have to be very careful with that. We're going to do that on the other side as well. We're going to do this, we're going to see, yep, intersects right there. We're going to grab the two of them because these will also be hidden line, and we're going to put it in. Enter. Great. So now we know that we have our square, rectangular, cuboid-ish type platform, whatever you want to reference it as. Then we have our cylinder, and then that goes down. And if you want to, you can just grab this, 1, 2, because then I'm just don't want to copy it over. One, two, three. I'm gonna grab one. I'm gonna grab two. I'm gonna grab COPY, and I'm copying this simply because since it's a cylinder, what goes on at the top has to happen at the bottom. Correct. Enter. And once we have that there, we know that this cylinder comes down. Awesome. 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 Nice. And last but not least, we could always just continue this circle in the back here. I removed. Oh wait, let me just see if I could get it back. Alright, so I'm gonna have to do the construction. I deleted it earlier on when we did the construction right here, so I'm just gonna draw it back for you all to see. Nice. And once I draw it back there, I'm gonna copy it and I'm gonna grab it from the drawing was done on the lowest part, so I'm just gonna raise it to the top, and there we go. And we're also just gonna turn this into a hidden detail, and yeah, there we go. So I didn't originally plan to do the hidden detail, and let's just turn it off to show that. Nice. So I didn't originally plan to do the hidden detail, but this is what your question is going to look like. And your dimensions are going to match everything that we pulled from the third angle projection view. Go ahead, at this point it's just for you to do your dimensioning, make sure and do your labels, and have a good time. Guys, thank you for watching. It's been a pleasure just constructing this object for those of you who requested it. That's totally fine as well. Keep the suggestions coming. We'll tackle questions. They may get more complicated, but I believe using our methods, we can construct almost anything. So thank you very much. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a little message in the description. Love to see the encouragement. If there's something that you may have a problem with, I know some person said that the audio was a little bit janky, so I'm working on that, but I appreciate all the suggestions all the more. So until, take care.